Good afternoon and welcome to the OPEA Lunch and Learn session today. My name is John Green with AMBA. I'll introduce myself a little bit later in a moment. Just a couple of quick housekeeping details for those of us who are joining on the webinar today. All participants are in a listen-only mode. And what that means is if you have a question or a comment, feel free to drop it into chat or into Q&A, and we'll have the OPEA staff who is also joining us today monitor that. If there's something specific to them, they may respond to you individually, or Tony and the crew can come on and address that publicly to the group at large. If you also have questions, then I'll be able to monitor that as well and answer them accordingly. We record every one of these sessions, put them out on the OPEA website for future reference. So that way, if you need to go back and look at it, share it with a spouse or with a family member, you can do that as well. Or if you joined us late, you can do that. You'll also notice this QR code here on the bottom right-hand corner. You're going to see that at the end. So keep your smartphone handy, because we're going to show you how you can get more information about some of the conversations that we've talked about here today. So welcome aboard. We'll spend about 30, 45 minutes discussing how to protect your nest egg today. But before we do that, just a couple of quick housekeeping things. My name is John Green. I work with AMBA. We partner with the OPEA to help them with their benefits and with all of their membership coordination needs. I live a little bit north of Houston with my wife, who is a public school educator. I am the product of a public state employee household. My mother, my aunt, and my grandfather all work for the Texas Highway Department. So I do appreciate what you do to serve your citizens in Oklahoma. So I've spent the better part of my career helping active employees, whether they be state employees or educators in the school, understand what their retirement years look like. So I know we have a mix of retirees versus active employees on the call today. So we're going to try to use that background to inform ourselves about our conversation as we go forward today. OPEA is there to protect those things that you're working hard for or that you worked all your career for and you're enjoying your retirement, such as pension, your health benefits, any pay raises, your working conditions, things like that. OPEA is there for you, and they do such a great job on your behalf. And those of your state employee fellow coworkers that are not members of OPEA would encourage you to get them involved in OPEA so they can take advantage of all of the different connections at the local community level, as well as the benefits and the discounts and all the fun stuff that become a part of OPEA. And with the election just wrapping up, now's when the heavy lifting takes place. OPEA will be back on these webinars, be looking for communication through social media, emails, alerts of any particular bills that are coming up when the legislative session gets back going next year. So again, OPEA is your single source for all things public employee related. At AMBA, we work with associations just like OPEA, as well as the Oklahoma Retired Educators Association, all across the country. Those public servant organizations, that's who we work with and partner with and serve. Our leader up in Oklahoma is David Moritz, who lives in Edmond, and he will be glad. He's got a team scattered all throughout the state that can help you understand what the relationship between OPEA and AMBA is and what your benefits of being an OPEA member. Be glad to share that with you, because there are some significant benefits of having OPEA and AMBA together. They can kind of fill those gaps that aren't covered by your state benefits. You've got a very robust state benefit plan. As you retire, some of those you keep, some you don't keep, but there are still some gaps in there, and AMBA can help fill those gaps in there. They're portable if you leave state employment for whatever reason, or you move out of state. There's not any network that it's tied to, so you can take those anywhere you go. The biggest thing that a lot of OPEA members tell us is they like having this relationship because they're able to extend the benefits to their parents or extend them to their adult children who may be aged out of their state benefits. And so you can do that if you're a member of OPEA with the benefits at AMBA. The other thing too is we have many state employees that would be responsible for their loved ones, their parents, their grandparents, if something happened to them medically and they needed to be taken care of. With the proper planning on your parents or grandparents, you will be able to make sure they're protected and taken care of, and you don't have to take time off or extended time off from work that eats into your PTO, that eats into your pension earnings, things like that. So again, there's some benefits of having OPEA and AMBA together. But today, we're going to take a little bit different look, and we're going to talk about how to protect your nest egg. And we're going to do this by several different ways. We're going to walk through and kind of identify what makes up your nest egg, and then what those 5 biggest threats are to your nest egg and how you can resolve that, how you can protect your nest egg against those threats, give you peace of mind, take advantage of those endorsed options that you have through OPEA. But to help me figure out a little bit about who's on the call and what's on your mind, I want to launch a quick poll. So once I launch this, I want you to tell us what your biggest concerns are when it comes to protecting your nest egg, the things that you worked hardest for. What's your biggest concern? And if you'll just click that box there, it's totally anonymous, and let us know what's out there. Then we can tell who's on the poll here. So we've got some folks already weighing in, and we've got about 20 people on the call today. So we'll make sure that we address that, and it'll help kind of drive our conversation going forward. So we'll wait just a few more seconds here, give a few more who want to participate. All right, last call, 3, 2, 1. All right, let me share the results here. We've got a very interesting split here. We've got about a third of the group is worried about stock market gyrations up and down, what that does to your nest egg. The biggest group is concerned about outliving your savings, and then medical expenses. So there's some good news in this conversation. We're going to talk about some of these things. Some great news from a standpoint of a pension perspective in outliving your savings, because your pension is very strong, and it's something that you can't outlive, which is really, really nice. And we're going to talk about how you can make sure you supplement that properly with something that you can't outlive as well. So let's take a step back, though, and just talk about the main components of a stable retirement income. Whether you're retired or whether you're active, having a three-legged stool of retirement that is stable is very crucial. Now, you've got a pension as a state employee, whether you're active or whether you're retired and you took a pension out, you've got a pension. The good news is that's stable. You can't outlive your pension. Now, depending upon how you select your pension distribution, it could impact your beneficiaries if you pass away. So it's important to always review your pension beneficiary designations, because that could impact them. But as far as your income, you can't outlive your pension. It will always be there for you. Then you have Social Security, which is another strong leg of retirement. And again, that's something you can't outlive. Depending upon how you take that, could impact how much you earn or what your spouse gets in the future if you pass away, but you can't outlive that. And then the third leg of a stable retirement is your other savings. That could be your Sooner Save, it could be an IRA, could be a spouse's 401k or 403b, something like that. But that money that you set aside outside of your normal savings for your retirement. So those are the three main components. We're going to address those, each one of those, but really we talk about it in terms of what is and what isn't your nest egg, because your nest egg is not your pension. Your pension is something that's always going to be there as long as we keep fighting and making sure that the state funds it properly. Your pension is not part of your nest egg. Social Security is not part of your nest egg. That, for purposes of our conversation today, mattress money is not your nest egg. And I'm talking about that emergency money that you set aside for something. If the truck breaks down, AC unit goes out, something like that. That kind of money we're not talking about as your nest egg. Or if you've had an insurance claim where you've had an injury and they make a structured settlement, meaning they're paying you out over a periodic period of time. Those are not your nest eggs. What we are talking about is your 401a and your Sooner Save plans, any 403b or 401k plans that you or your spouse may have, IRAs, cash balance pension plans from former jobs, CDs and savings, money market accounts at the bank, and inheritance. Now, when we talk about this, some of you are already retired and you may have chosen to keep your 401a or your Sooner Save plans active with Empower, or some of you may have taken those and taken them out and done something different with them. As an active employee, you're building your nest egg if you're putting money into 401a or into Sooner Save. So we're not really going to talk about the building aspect of it. We're talking more about as you get into your retirement years. So that kind of informs you of what we're talking about today. We're going to protect those things on the right-hand side is what we're going to talk about, and show you the 5 biggest threats. About 5 or 6 years ago, the USA Today newspaper did a really interesting article that talked about some of the major threats to that savings, that nest egg that you have in your retirement. Those are, in no particular order, taking care of your elderly parents, the death of a spouse without any type of life insurance, boomerang children, and we'll define that in a moment, a medical crisis, or overexposure to the stock market as you age. And we're going to address each one of these and show you some numbers behind it, and then just give you a few possible solutions. We're not going to go real in depth into a lot of the possible solutions because we'd be here for a long time. And I know many of you are on your lunch hour. We're just going to hit them at a high level as we walk through here. Number one of the things that are most of threat to your nest egg is taking care of elderly parents. Now, on this call, we've got active employees that probably have elderly parents or parents that are close to retirement if they're a younger employee. And then we've also got some retirees on here that may have parents still living, or their children will be responsible for them if they became ill. When it comes to needing care, long-term care, elder care, something like that, once we reach age 65, 70% of us are going to need some form of extended care in our lifetime. The sad part about that is that over 70% of us are going to have to be cared for at home by an informal caregiver who receives no compensation. And what that usually means is that the daughter or the daughter-in-law in the family has to take off time from their job to take care of mom or mother-in-law. And that can really impact and scramble a nest egg. It can not only scramble the income coming into the household, but if you're a state employee or a teacher that's relying on a pension and you have to take off a couple of years, or we've had some people that we talked to that had to stop their career early, that could really impact your pension and your earning of your pension long into the future. So for women, this is a great impact to you and can really scramble your nest egg, because not only does it stunt your income while you're actively working, it can impact your pension, but it also can really impact family relationships down to multiple generations. There are some solutions that are out there. There are long-term care insurance plans, home health plans, recovery care plans, or kind of a hybrid where you have some personal assets as well. Just like in Texas, I see a lot of people in Oklahoma that maybe have some family land, maybe some inheritance type situation out there. And we see oftentimes too often that someone has to sell a family asset to take care of a loved one that is ill. With proper planning, you don't have to go in and scramble that nest egg to take care of someone. You can have that taken care of by providing for them through one of these methods that are out there as well. Another thing that will scramble a nest egg is a spouse passing away without life insurance. About 40% of us would feel a true financial pinch within 6 months of death of a spouse without any type of life insurance. So having something in there in place to cover that, many of us, we've got something through work. State provides you with a certain amount. Do you have something on your spouse who's not a state employee there? By having life insurance, it can prevent you from having to dip into that nest egg, that retirement savings to pay for housing, medical, or college, things like that. So important there. I am going to put in a quick plug. Please, because of open enrollment periods, and we're all thinking about this time of year, please, after we get off this call, go back and check your beneficiaries of your state life insurance and any life insurance you had. Too many times have I taken checks out to beneficiaries who have been the current, they've been an ex-spouse. The deceased had gotten divorced, married someone new, but never changed their beneficiaries. And that check goes to an ex-spouse. That's a lot of fun conversation. Or I've taken checks out to 2 of 3 children because they forgot to put that third child on as a beneficiary. So please, please, please check that after we get done with this conversation today. There are some options that are endorsed by OPEA for final expense whole life that gives you just a level expense, check that you can take care of all those final expenses, that can pay for any type of medical bills, something like that may have taken place. If you have a medical condition, there are even some guaranteed life insurance policies that are available to you that are endorsed that allow you to at least get some coverage that can make sure that you don't have to tap into your nest egg right away. And look at life insurance, especially from a deceased spouse Social Security replacement, because those change when somebody passes away. And depending upon what your financial situation, you may want to have that income to replace a life insurance policy to replace that Social Security income you were anticipating. Number 3 is a medical crisis that can scramble your nest egg. The biggest cause of bankruptcies in the United States today are medical bills. And we all think, well, I've got great state insurance. They're going to cover everything. I've got a network. It's all covered with minimal copays, things like that. That's true. Even with Medicare, just like your state plans, even with TRICARE, all of those are very good plans. But what happens is that some of the care after a treatment, those things aren't usually covered. And in the case of cancer, sometimes heart attack and stroke, sometimes 60% of care related to cancer is not covered. And it comes in 2 different forms. I live in Houston. We have a tremendous cancer care facility down in the medical center in Houston. I fly back from Oklahoma City, St. Louis, all across the country. I meet people all the time who are flying into Houston to receive treatment. None of those costs are paid for by your insurance plans. That's a cost that's borne upon that individual, whether it being taking time off from work, whether it being paying for the air flight, paying for hotels while they're down there, things like that. You'll also find that Medicare, as well as your health care plans, don't usually pay for what I call comfort care items, such as anti-nausea medication, wigs, prosthesis, a private room versus a semi-private room. So some of those things can leave you on the lurch and make you responsible that you've got to pay for that. Additionally, we'll find sometimes even within networks, doctors will have somebody outside a network read a scan or refer you to a specialist that's maybe experimental and not in any networks or doesn't take Medicare. And that can cost you expenses there as well. And then we've had many state employees that will retire and go back and consult in different places. And if you have a health issue, sometimes that can limit your earning potential as well. So a medical crisis can be a scrambler of your nest egg as well. There are different plans that are endorsed by OPEA that cover cancer, heart attack, and stroke that just give you a lump sum. They just give you $5,000 up to $50,000 that you can do however you want to, use in whatever way you want to, whether it's to cover those comfort items like we talked about, experimental treatments, travel, whatever you want to do. Recovery care plans that would provide somebody to come into your home, change wounds, dressings, help you bathe, feed, things like that. Also, I want to touch on this MASA membership opportunity. In the state of Oklahoma, you have many communities that participate in a billing system through the water bill that pays for ground ambulance in your area. There's about a dozen communities that do that. That leaves a lot of land in Oklahoma that doesn't cover that. A MASA membership would cover all of your expenses related to any ground or air emergency transportation, anywhere in Oklahoma, anywhere in the world. Even with the great state medical coverage that you have, retiree coverage plus Medicare, most ambulance providers and all air providers do not participate in networks. So that means that you could still be left on the lurch for a sizable expense because your health plan or Medicare will only pay 20% or a fixed dollar amount. And then Medicare oftentimes comes back and says, you know, you could have taken an Uber to the hospital, or you could have had a friend drive you. We're not going to pay for anything at all. A MASA membership allows you not to have any worries about that. Total peace of mind when it comes to not having to pay the thousands of dollars out of pocket for any ground ambulance or the tens of thousands for an air ambulance. Now, number 4 is boomerang children. Ever since COVID, more and more households have adult children living back in them than we've ever had in the history of the United States. And this impacts those of you who are retired. We've got 52% of boomer households fully retired if they have no children living with them, but only 21% are fully retired if they have adult children moving back in with them. And that can really put a scramble on their nest egg. They might have expected to have used the money for travel, use the money for something else, and now they've got to use it to take care of their adult children. I wish I had a solution beyond just locking the door, making them promise and, to be your caregiver forever. We had one retired educator there in Oklahoma a few months back said, I've told my children, if they want to move back home, here's a laundry list of all the things I expect them to do and what I expect them to pay. She said it's worked like garlic. They've never moved back in. So again, this can really scramble your nest egg, especially at the time in which you're expecting to use your income for something else in your retirement plans for something else. And then finally, number 5 is overexposure to the stock market as we age. We retire at a certain date, whether it's that magic number of years of service and my age, and boom, I'm out, I get my full pension. If it's 65 because of Medicare, if it's 67 because of Social Security, whatever it is, we have this time in which we retire. You save up all your money in your nest egg and expect to retire. Well, think about those individuals who retired back in 2008 when the last housing crisis hit and the stock market dropped almost 50% in just a few weeks. Can you afford to have your retirement nest egg that you've worked all your life eaten away by half in a blink of an eye? So to have a plan that protects your money as you age is so important. But right now, savings interests are pretty low. CD rates aren't great. And so we have oftentimes people say, well, you know what? Yeah, it dropped 30% this year. I'll just ride it out because it's going to go back up. That could be the case. And if I knew that for sure, you wouldn't see me on this call. You would know that I was, if I knew what it was, I'd be on a boat down in the Caribbean and not worry about it at all. Let me show you this little chart real quick. This is a look at the biggest 500 public companies since back in the 20s, called the S&P 500. Historical look at back then to today. Now, this peak over here, around 500 and change, about 569 or so, that number is what happened right before the Great Depression of 1929, when it just plummeted, all stocks plummeted. Well, if you'd had your retirement income there, you'd have lost almost all of it and said, well, I'll just gain it back. If you go all the way across here, it took until the early 60s to gain that money back. 30 plus years it took to gain that money back. We may not have that amount of time to do that. And then it bounces along pretty good all through the 50s, post-war, all that kind of stuff, drops a little bit down here in the 60s. Well, it still took 20, 30 years to gain it back at this point. So we don't know how long our current situation is in right now. But the older you get, and I've heard this referred to, I'm not a financial planner, not a financial advisor. I've heard of what's called the rule of 100, which says that you take your age and subtract it from 100, and that's the amount of money that you should have exposed into a true stock market type nest egg savings plan. So if you're 70, you take that from 100, you should have 30% of your nest egg in that stock market plan. So the older we get, the less we need to have it that way. We all saw this during the coronavirus outbreak. Investors watched their stocks and watched their nest egg savings plummet by 30% in 2 weeks. Now, fortunately, it bounced back. And again, we don't know what's going to happen if this bounces back or when it bounces back. The screenshot I took over here was in early January. I look at today, we're having a pretty good day in the stock market, but we're still just barely back up to some of these indices. Don't know if it's going to be that way. So the older we get, the less we need to have exposure to the stock market. And so there's some opportunities that you have out there, but it's hard to just put it into a CD or into a savings account because the interest rates aren't great now, and inflation is eating that up on the other side. We know that gas prices are up. Consumer price index came out today. It's still over 7%. That doesn't include fuel and food because those things are even higher. And so, inflation eats up our purchasing power. What do? We don't want to lose money, but we can't make it up in a safe environment that's just purely safe, like through interest rates. There are some options that you have out there for you. One may be a tax-deferred asset protection plan. It is endorsed by OPEA, but it gives you this ability, and many of you said, I worry about outliving my money. This gives you another leg on your stool that you never have to worry about outliving your income. You never outlive your money out there. Let me show you how this works. most of us aren't afraid of dying. In fact, only 20% of us fear dying, but close to 60% of us fear outliving our money. The poll that we took in this group on the call today said the exact same thing. This tax deferred asset protection plan that's available to you as a member of OPEA gives you lifetime income and safety. You never have to worry about outliving that. It does give you access to competitive returns, but the good thing about it is it's all potential upside and no downside risk. You can't lose money if the stock market drops. That's the nice benefit of this particular plan. Now, if the stock market goes up 20%, you're not going to make 20%. But if the stock market drops 10%, drops 15% or 30%, you're not going to lose either. You're going to get competitive returns upside with no downside risk. This particular plan doesn't have any underwriting regardless of your health. You can use it for qualified and non-qualified monies. So what I'm talking about there, think your 401a, your Sooner Safe plan, those are qualified monies like an IRA. You've never paid taxes on them. And so you can put that money into this. If you're an active employee, listen to me closely. I do not recommend that you put any money or take any money out of your Sooner Save plan or your 401a. I would look at something else that you've got maybe outside of from a savings perspective. If you're an active employee, take advantage of that right now. If you're a retiree, it's a different story. We have conversations about that. It gives you access to the money, greater liquidity. You can get flexible income options if you want to take it out in lump sums, if you want to get a steady stream of income. The thing I like about it, it gives you some long-term care benefits on top of your growth and protection. If you've joined us for any of our long-term care webinars, I've shared with you my father's situation. He had vascular dementia, spent the last 2 years of his life in a nursing home. Because of his health history, it is difficult for me to qualify for a long-term care plan. I took an old cash balance pension plan that I had from a previous employer, placed it into this particular plan, and it has long-term care benefits in there that if I need long-term care, I can access it as much as I need to, or if I'm already starting to take money out at whatever age I want to take it out, and I need long-term care, I can double my payments to me. You can't do that with your pension plan. You can't call the pension board and ERS and say, hey, I need long-term care. Can you double my pension? This allows you to do that. So I took a portion of my nest egg, put it in this plan. I don't have to worry about my long-term care nor my spouse's long-term care. Because we've got to prepare for many, many more years of living. Studies show that once we reach age 65, our chances of living until our 80s and 90s is pretty high. And the impact of inflation, health issues, things like that can really scramble our nest egg. You've got opportunities to protect that and prepare for that. And we'd be glad to help you out there. So what questions do I have? Feel free to drop those into chat, into Q&A. If you would like someone on David's team to answer any questions that you have and kind of compare this with how your state medical plan works versus your state retirement plans, your pensions and all that, you simply take your smartphone, open up your camera feature and hover over that QR code. That QR code will pop up on your screen. You can check a few boxes, put OPEA as your association in there, fill it out. It'll get back to David right away. If you're on a tablet or on your phone and you can't do that, my email address is on there, john.green, like the color, at amba.info. johnjon.green@amba.info. Again, if you've got questions, drop them into Q&A or into chat. Okay, Linda, you asked about a recording. We are recording these. It takes us about 2 or 3 days to get the recording back in a link that we can post out on the OPEA website. But if you'll also send me an email, I can respond back to you once I get that link and send it to you personally. But all of our webinars are out on the OPEA website, and we do record these. So that's a great question. I'll come back to this QR code in a moment, as well as my email. I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention. We have one more webinar. It's hard to believe this year is almost over. On the 8th of December, we're going to talk about all of the discounts that you get by being an OPEA member. The Passport program is saving hundreds of thousands of dollars every month for association members across the country. They've added so many new vendors, so many new businesses, ways to save. If you're taking any travel, whether you're going skiing, whether you're going to Florida, great way to save money. If you're going just to Silver Dollar City, or if you're going to Branson, if you're going there, to Six Flags, ways to get discounts on holiday in the park tickets. If you're shopping, sending stuff different places, way to do that. That's on the 8th. Make sure that you sign up for that. Be on the lookout for the emails and the social media posts that are out there as well. And then we'll kick off the new year with the financial wellness webinar, where we'll talk about all the changes to the health plans, talk about ways that you can maximize your health plans, as well as anything that has changed from the government in regards to Social Security and things of that nature. So take advantage of these. And we do, again, as I mentioned, we record all of these out there for you. And please, please, please tell your coworkers, tell your fellow retirees of state employment that about these OPEA webinars. It's a great way to introduce them to OPEA, let them know the value that they get as being a member, and then help them become a member. Because when the legislative session rolls around and we can roll up there and say we've got 10, 11, 14,000 members, this is huge whenever we're trying to get legislation passed. So please tell them about OPEA and get them involved as well. All right, any other questions that have popped in, please let me know. All right, so we got a question here. This one came from Amber. She's an active state employee. We talk about ways to save money. That passport program is one of the best ways to save money on travel, shopping. If you live in Oklahoma City, there's some really good restaurants that are available to that. So like I said, you can save 15% or more out there, especially if you're gift giving, Apple products, Whirlpool products, things like that. She asked, what are some other ways to build wealth? I would highly encourage you, Amber, take advantage of what the state provides for you in the 401A and Sooner Save area, simply because there are so many built-in features that you can do, that you can use, and it's all pre-tax. So it lowers your taxable income up front. It allows that money to grow tax-free over your career, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. I'd encourage you to go out and look at the Sooner Save, because there are some flexibility features inside of it. If you have an emergency, things like that, that allow you to do that. Some other ways that I encourage you, take advantage of the HSA program, health savings account program that you have available to you. If you're in the proper plan, a high deductible plan, that HSA plan allows you to save money for healthcare needs on a pre-tax basis. It doesn't expire, and you can take it with you if you leave state employment. So the HSA is a good way to go from that perspective. And then if you've got health issues, and we get people all the time that ask us about health issues and life insurance, there are some guaranteed issue life insurance plans that are available through AMBA as part of your OPEA membership that take into account certain medical conditions and could make you eligible for life insurance. So take advantage, first of all, what you have through the state. Second, take advantage of a health savings account. Third, look at your OPEA benefits. Use the QR code, email me. We'll have David or one of his team sit down and do a side-by-side comparison and say, here's what the state provides for you. Here's what OPEA is coming on top of to help cover those gaps, help round out your coverage needs, see what's available that way. And then if you've done all that and you've maxed out everything that the state provides for you, then I would look at doing some sort of a Roth IRA. Now, I haven't looked deeply into Sooner Save, and maybe Tony, somebody there in the office, can hop on and tell us this. If there is a Roth option through Sooner Save or through the 401A, I would jump on that. Roth IRAs, whether it be through Sooner Save, through 401A, or outside the state, Roth IRAs allow you to put after-tax money, and any growth that you get is tax-free after that. So it's a really cool situation. I think Tony's going to answer your question here right away for us in that regard. But that's a super question, Amber. That's a lot of things to unpack there. If you've got other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or into Q&A. We'll be glad to answer those for you. But super questions. We've had questions before in webinars that we've done across the country. People ask about, could this be something I could use some inheritance money that I have sitting around? Yes, if you've got inheritance money sitting in a CD account, a money market account that's maybe not making you any money, this may be a place to do that, to try to get a bigger gain without any market risk. We've had people ask about qualified versus non-qualified. And again, if you're an active state employee, I do not recommend that you take anything out of your qualified plans to put into this. If you're a retiree or you've got money outside of the state plans, something that I would consider based on your age and your situation. Everyone's situation is so different. Please, please, please use that QR code. Email me. That way we can review your situation and know exactly what's available to you. And that way you've got peace of mind knowing that you don't have to outlive your income. Stock market's not going to worry, gyrations are going to worry you, and you've got some money in case you've got a medical crisis out there. So, all right, let's see if we've got any more questions that have come out there. Jenny asked, what is the website for OPEA where you can purchase products? Okay. Different question, but here's the website on here, Jenny. myambabenefits.info/OPEA, or you can go to opea.org and you can go look at their benefits tab. So myambabenefits.info/OPEA will take you right there. Some of those plans you can purchase right online, dental, vision, the MASA program. Others, because they are so customized per individual, it's better to have someone talk to you about that, to go through those things with you. So I encourage you to use that QR code, email me out there. So you can always find more information out there at opea.org or directly to the benefits piece at myambabenefits.info/OPEA out there. Good question there. Okay. All right. And Amber, we're getting more questions about Sooner Save. Again, oftentimes it's frustrating that we don't have direction. That's something I encourage you. That's part of your OPEA membership to get some direction, but also we can help you at AMBA just understand what the plans do and how those work for you as well. So they really are good plans. OPEA was instrumental in helping them get set up. So it's really important that you understand that. So I'm going to stop recording right now because oftentimes we have